Howdy, it's Constitutional Clayton here, and today I want to show you how the Senate is trying to pass a bill that excludes me from my First Amendment right. The bill is called the Media Shield Bill. Just like the Patriot Act, the title is very misleading. They do this to prey on those who cannot read between the lines and cannot decipher the rhetoric. So that is what I'm going to do for you today. Now this news is actually being reported by AP, but I found a couple of articles that have picked it up and are actually parroting exactly what the AP was saying. But here's what they pretty much say. A supporter of a bill to protect reporters and the news media from having to reveal confidential sources said Friday, the measure has the backing of the Obama administration and the support of enough senators to move ahead this year. Senator Chuck Schumer of New York, the number 3 Democrat in the Senate, spoke optimistically about prospects for the measure, identifying 5 Republicans who would join with Democrats and independents on a bill that he said would address a constitutional oversight. And I'm going to tell you, the Constitution will never authorize oversight over the First Amendment. That is basically regulating your First Amendment, and the government tells you what part of the First Amendment you have and don't have, what part of the First Amendment applies to you, and what part of the First Amendment applies to their government-sanctioned people. But let's continue to read here. Chuck Schumer said to the New York Times Sources and Secrets Conference that while the Constitution protects freedom of the press, there is no First Amendment right for gathering of information. Somebody needs to tell him that you can't be a journalist without gathering information first. And protection of sources is vital to having a free press. But they don't want you to understand that rhetoric. That is something that only they are supposed to understand so they can pass their laws the way that they want to. And what's even worse is what they say about Glenn Greenwald. While talking about Glenn Greenwald, he pretty much says, it's probably not enough to protect or cover him, but it's better than the current law. That's what Chuck Schumer said. It's not going to cover Glenn Greenwald, who is, the guy who is reporting all of Snowden's leaks. But it'll cover, Chris Matthews and Megyn Kelly. It won't cover Drudge. It won't cover Alex Jones. It won't cover Glenn Beck. And you know what? It won't cover Constitutional Clayton. So if they can take out Drudge, they can take out me. And that is a direct attack on the press, on the real press. Let's continue to read. The bill's protections would apply to, quote, covered journalists, defined as an employee, independent contractor, or an agent of an entity that disseminates news or information. The individual would have to have been employed for 1 year within the last 20 years, or 3 months within the last 5 years. It would apply to student journalists or someone with a considerable amount of freelance work in the last 5 years. A federal judge also would have the discretion to declare an individual a, quote, covered journalist who would be, granted the privileges of the law. So this is a First Amendment privilege law. This is giving privileges to select people. These are First Amendment right privileges that are for select individuals and not for everybody. This is not justice and freedom for all. This is freedom for the select people, the cronies, we'll say. Let's continue reading. While the definition covers traditional and online media, it draws a line at posts on Twitter, blogs, or other social media websites by non-journalists. The overall bill protects reporters and news media organizations from being required to reveal the identities of confidential sources, but it does not grant an absolute privilege to journalists. That's the end of the article, and it's making me sick. Look, I'm a blogger and an independent media. I will be excluded from the rights I enjoy now. In other words, if this law is enacted, citizen journalists and bloggers not affiliated with corporations may be subjected and forced to laws that make them reveal their sources against their will, which is a key component of journalism. This is really an attack on journalism. And who is attacking the First Amendment? Well, it's the authoritarian leftist-controlled Senate. Those people don't want to do anything but tell you what you can and cannot do, and using government force, the force of coercion and bullets and jail time, to make you do exactly what they say. That's what the Democrats are doing. That's what the left is doing right now. Not that the right is a whole lot better, but I'm complaining about them attacking me, but they're really after the Matt Drudges and Alex Joneses of America. People who point out in other news articles should just be as credible as their reputation allows them to be, instead of having a federal judge or corrupt politicians making that decision. Now, I bring up Matt Drudge and the Drudge Report because Matt has been at the center of all of this, fighting the good fight and taking the blows as they come. Now, I'm going to read a couple of tweets from September 13th of last year. A federal judge once ruled Drudge was not a reporter, a journalist, or a news gatherer. Millions of readers a day come for cooking recipes. Another tweet that day said, comments from Senator Feinstein yesterday on Who's a Reporter were disgusting. 17-year-old blogger is as important as Wolf Blitzer. Fascist. And I happen to agree with that. Here's a video of Big Sis, who is the former head of Department of Homeland Security, saying that Drudge is not credible.
We can deal with facts, and we can answer those questions for the American people, not only on the ammo, but also on the MRAPs. The question I have for you, when Forbes magazine or Drudge or some reputable news sources start to repeat the numbers of 1.6 million or 2,700 MRAPs, they cease to both be internet rumors and they start having some credibility. And so I just ask, why was there a long delay or silence from DHS for a period of time, almost 3 months, before y'all came forth saying these numbers aren't correct, these are the actual facts? Why was there a delay or a silence from your department?
Well, I don't know about that there was that kind of delay, but I will tell you we found it so inherently unbelievable that those statements would be made. It was hard to ascribe credibility to them, and I don't know if I would put Forbes and Drudge in the same sentence, but
if they can shut down Drudge, they can shut down me. And if they can frisk Drudge for his sources, then they can do the same to me. I am about to lose the same protections vested in me by the Constitution. The First Amendment clearly states, Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So let's recap the important part. Abridge the freedom of speech, or the press. Now, these tactics are chilling and intimidating. This is a form of government intimidation, and we have to speak out against it, or we will lose those rights incrementally. It gets even scarier when you talk about the news agencies that will be left if they get their way. Those news stations may have a government stooge that vindicates all of their sources, excluding those they think are damaging to the government's image, which is also an attack on the First Amendment. Not just by silencing selective sources, but by striking a blow against the petition to the government for a redress of grievances. Because you can't petition the government for a redress of grievances if you don't know what those grievances are. There are a lot more articles and videos on that particular subject, so I'll keep it short. This article is from the Washington Times, and the headline reads, White House to sniff out newsrooms. Troubling and dangerous development. The Obama administration is pushing forward with a Federal Communications Commission, FCC, project that would send government researchers into newsrooms across the country. And First Amendment advocates want to know why. Of course we do. And I will speak out against any move to crush any of my freedoms. I want you to do it too. Don't be scared, because that is their biggest weapon, is to instill fear in you and to make you stand down. They are not all powerful, or they would not deny everything out of fear. The truth is rising, And we should all be jumping on the freedom truck to save this republic. The time is now. Let's breathe life back into those documents and take our government back and make them obey the Constitution. My friends, once you see what's going on, you can prepare for it. But until then, listen in.
Say you want a revolution, well, you know, we all want to change the world.